The, I'm just going to jump right in here. The cascading of energies of images, energies and images. So I'm just going to explain the images, and maybe that will segue into the voice of this truth coming through the wand, the first image, this Ace of Cups, this cup overflowing. So many are coalescing into one single vibration, which is joining to each of you and us. This has to do with light for sure. There is a channeling which runs up, much like your images. We encourage you to use images, for these are very helpful for the coalescence of these ideas, if you will, these notions, these ways of being, which will help and encourage you through this transition, you say, and that is appropriate for you to vision this as a modus of movement across two plateaus, if you will, for awareness. When boats move from shore to shore, there is tumult and there are calm waters as well. However, the navigation resides with the skill of the oarsman who is in charge of his vessel. Thank you, Queran. We heard that. This is your boat, your vehicle. This is a common image. This is not simply connected with the group. However, we will backtrack to the initial image, which may trigger, again, emotions in a positive sense for this wand, if you will. We have heard and have been chatting quietly with this one regarding this duality of what seems to be completely everyday tools, items in your repertoire. For an example, we will use a stick, let us call it a stick. In some of your memory banks, you may have become familiar with dowsing. These are rods. These are simply channels, avenues. These many people will throw these away, burn them, will pay no attention. However, in the right hands with correct usage, these become the supplements toward your, some people say, ascension. This, we caution you to become too inured to this upward motion. For the actual occurrence is multi-dimensional. It is not simply up, it is down, around. The directions of the shaman may be interesting here, for they are cardinal directions in addition to minute spectrum, if you will, degrees. So we are looking here at a spherical movement. And for those who are beginning, it is perhaps best as skillful to envision one angle towards this incision into progress. However, you are free to choose where and how you will accomplish this. We will finish with this notion of this stick, wand. If you may remember, bring to mind a magic, for many of you still call this magic, wand, in which it is held, your hand grasps a stick.
May we know who we are speaking to?
This is, as you may have said, Colum. We are a collective of various energies who are accessed with different names depending on your avenue. However, for this one, Colum is sufficient.
Mm. So if I might ask, right now, I feel like there's a guide online here who is sort of showing me pictures.
Hmm,
Can you tell us what
hmm,
your relationship is if I am seeing a guide
hmm.
and he looks a bit like Man in the Moon, he looks like a character with a white beard, etc. And he's sort of showing me different images. How are you related?
The connectivity, if you might imagine, let's just see, if you close your eyes and envision the net, you now
Mm,
have the media, you now have the internet, the
mm,
interconnectivity of a networking system. Yes?
mm. Yes.
Therefore, we call it a nodality. It is a somewhat of a pun with modality. However, in this case, we will call it node, as the node that joins. There are nodes in the net. If you think of a geodetic dome, the nodes are the structural kingpins, queendoms of these connections. You, Dave, occupy a node, just as
Mm,
all of you in the world, all sentient beings occupy a node. The means of access onto this connective interwork, the interwork of the nodality, this interwork. Excuse us for a moment as we recalibrate with this one who has lost her bearings.
Take your time. I think we've understood fairly well. If you need to take a moment to regroup.
Hmm.
Does I just I don't want to take over here. Are there anybody who would like to ask Colin questions? I kind of feel like I have a guide online too, so please ask questions.
If we may, we appreciate the avenue you have opened, and there is one image that we would like to finish with is this frothing of light that
Uh-huh.
emanates from the wand that you have often in your memory banks, perhaps, this notion of the magic wand, the cup which is frothing, the wand which is frothing. The power of energy is often felt as
Hmm.
frothy, emanating from this conduit, if you will. That conduit may be yourselves. It may also be a tool, depending on your perspective. So, Dave, we will connect with you on this you as a conduit, and all of you here who are working toward this modality is a, in a sense, you are frothing, you are accessing energy. And as the energies run through your vehicle, your body in this case, wand as body, they affluence into these images. Your image you have now of a guide coming in. These are the productions of energy, and they will map visually your predilections. In other words, if you come, for example, from a Christian background, you may encounter Christian imagery. If you come from a Muslim background, if you come from an eclectic background, if you come however you are comfortable in your own, we should say, spirituality, those images will froth out, if you will, into your apprehension. Yes?
Yes.
And so each apprehension bursts forth from the node.
Mm.
And you, Dave, are a node, just as
Mm,
each of you, each of us, each of you, we shall say for now, are a node. Your
mhm,
challenge here is to manage those energies, that bursting and that subsiding and that quiet and that activity, to become intimate with this flow, which is always available to you, though you may not be feeling it at some point in time, and to then appreciate, feel gratitude, and most of all, in what you have addressed, Dave, with us here, is the notion of fear, apprehension, because energy produces emotion in your species. Do you
mm.
see? Kiran, this
Yeah.
is something else that you wanted to address. That for you as a species, energy and emotion are connected. If you choose to enter directly through energy, some people do that, some organisms do that, biologically based entities do that. However, as humans, you tend to work with emotion, and motion is your modality to enter energy. So through that portal, if you will, also a medium, we hear the frisson which surrounds that. However, that medium of emotion, it is up to you. This is your task on this planet Earth, is to manage the emotion associated with energy.
Mm,
And you, Dave, and many of you who are working with she says, students who have friends, who have fellowship with those who are on this path, you have an opportunity here to share your ability to rest in trust
mm, mm,
and your ability to recognize when the afflorescence becomes, shall we say, too hot.
mm,
And we will also say that when those energies become, and this is a singular perspective, from our perspective, this energy is never too hot.
huh,
However, from your perspective, you are working with vehicles. Your vehicles,
mm,
they can burn out, they can
ah,
break down.
mm.
Hmm?
This is what you mean by too hot?
Yes, yes. You can short circuit, if you will. This is
Mm,
how we see it. So when you flip over into evil, darkness, danger, forces larger than you which are seeking to manipulate and harm, this is a form of burnout from
mm,
our perspective. From
mhm.
our perspective. We understand, however, that from your perspective, you are working with life and death.
Yeah.
This is your perspective, and so it shall be.
Mm, mm, mm. So I'd like to ask another question, but I do want to make sure everybody else gets a chance,
Mhm.
whether you're channeling or want to ask a question. Dale, Carl, Kieran, by all means.
I have no questions.
Yeah. Anyone
When
else?
you say emotion,
Mm.
what do you mean by that?
Mm. We appreciate this. This is a nuanced question. We asked you to remember the notion of spectrum, of continuity. We have worked long and hard with this one. This is the time for you to step off the duality train, or perhaps to mount that train, that two-track train, and to step on top and notice the connectivity between emotion and energy. At one end of the spectrum is energy, at the other end of the spectrum is emotion. As humans, your relationship with energy is managed through your biological vessel, your body. And this is true for all planetary inhabitants. And this is not just for Earth. There are other beings, if you will, who have very different orientations. However, we will speak with you about Earth. And on this spectrum, you might think and imagine that energy is complete. Emotion is the reaction that you as humans have. It is the means whereby energy enters your bodies in daily life. It is also the means whereby you generate energy from you. So energy in the human body, for those who are uninitiated, they may feel simply only emotion. That is all. And that is enough. For when they sit with their emotion and they settle into a felt relation with that emotion, and that emotion may be jealousy, pain, drama, the emotion born of drama, the high, the low. For there are junkies, there are emotional junkies on your planet, and they are having a field day.
So
For all,
Mhm.
I just want to ask a question quite specific to me. Last week I went camping. I had all the intentions of meditating for the entire week. But instead, the first day I had such an incredible, overwhelming depression, sadness that I really could not do anything except stare at the ocean.
mm,
Can you tell me what, and I want this to be an analogy for anyone, what was going on? Why am I feeling that?
you're passing a stone.
Hmm.
We sympathize and we do not trivialize this event. There are two perspectives on this. We will start with, how should we say, outside in, and then work with inside out.
Good.
The outside in is that, as you all are well familiar perhaps, this work requires remarkable amounts of sensitivity. There is an ability to hear, see, use all your senses to those antennae of the insect kingdom whom you have so beautifully worked with in this line of information here. There is a sensitivity which you must negotiate, if you will, which you must, it is a bit like going to an emotional gym. And it is perhaps the case, Dave, that in your work you have taken in and inadvertently held certain toxicity which you encounter from you. And we say toxicity with care. In this instance, we shall call it toxicity, for we sense that you felt it in that way when you use the word depression.
So
Therefore,
nature helped Dave to detox. Being in nature, that's what happened.
precisely. Precisely. The void. This ocean is one more image we supply for void. Sky. This is why daydreaming is often done looking at the sky. That void place is a portal, if you will, for energies which can cleanse, as you know, in this group and help. And Dave, you probably know this, were guided to that point. That is your reset.
Right.
That is your ability to heal. It is part and one of the process in healing others. We heal ourselves. So that is the outward manifestation. The inward manifestation, for this is all part of this. Ones. We applaud you deeply, for this is not for the faint of heart. There are other avenues for emotion, for depression, for anger, for grief and sadness, which come from your perspective, personal histories. And those two, which are, we may say uniquely, but nothing is unique. However, they are yours to work with, and it is your job, if you will, to tease out what is your, shall we say, karmic, your own, we shall not say burden, but it can feel at times heavy. It can feel heavy, but not all heaviness is a burden. The ability for you to take responsibility, to be able to respond to your own inner challenges is simultaneously occurring with your ability to respond, your responsibility to those challenges which others are experiencing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So for you, Dave, the inner work is not to see this as something to be avoided, but this is an opportunity to use these same efforts with which you clarify, and to do that not only with clients, loved ones, those around you, but also to do it within yourself, with your own manifestations in relation to energy. Yes.
It sounds like these feelings that I was having are actually quite necessary. It's part of a clarification. A daily practice. What has happened, Dave, is that we have the image we want to share with you of pell-mell. Pell-mell. You are tumbling through. Your sensitivities are prodigious. We ask that you work with, and we have spoken about this before, this is a reminding, and this is often all it is. All of you, we re-emphasize this. You are remembering. This is not something that comes from without. This is within. There is no without. You have everything within. We understand that there are catalysts that surround you. That is a given. However, this work is within. And you must pay attention. And you have, Dave.
And you will notice that as you pay attention to within, without will align.
So it seemed like you were sort of on the verge of giving sort of a reminder of advice. Can you just, practically speaking, I don't know if I'm not working through the energy well, or whether it is as it must be now. Maybe I'm supposed to be depressed for a single day once a year. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
No. Oh, dear Dave, dear Dave.
Yeah.
We have an image of a very small child enduring chastisement.
Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is there some way I should approach this?
With love,
Okay.
with love. There is we do not mean to be trite. That is not our purpose. However, there is a very real child within each of us. Yes, she has well received this child work. This is often the source of fear and insecurity, for there are many of the humans who have not matured fully into adults. You say adults. There are ways in which to re-love, to remind yourselves of the love. When this, Dave, we will speak directly to you, for we hear this cry, is one of supplication, and we respond with the help, the support that we can give you in terms of you loving yourself. When these moments of you perceive darkness, you perceive depress, that pression, that pressing, that heaviness, there is a choice to be made in those moments. And with your awareness, which you are cultivating, we shall assume that for this group. We shall not dwell on rudiments. We understand that each of you have a daily practice in awareness. For that awareness is your wand, if you will. It is your stick, if you will. Do not throw it away. That awareness, bring that to bear in those moments. And love for that depression is because you love. It is there because you love. You are affected because you are effective. Do you understand?
Yes. Good. Thank you very much. Yeah. And thank you everyone for indulging me in a personal question.
Your questions are manifold, Dave. This is the beauty of this process for all of you, is that your personal questions, as below, so above, as above, so below. The deeper your personal quest, the more likely you are to, shall we say, blow out. And that cup runneth over. It has in this group. And this is what you have found. You are free and able to do that on your home ground. And we will begin to withdraw. At this point, may we leave for now.
Thank
Bless
you.
you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Be well.
So you can call me Man in the Mood, as Dave does sometimes. First of all, I want to thank you for that message. It was a pretty emotional time for Dave. Thanks to all of you and Colum for addressing that. This is something that is sort of going on with many people, especially doing spiritual work at this time. There's just a lot of energy to transmute. It seems often like the energy is a crisis. The social political networks that you have on your planet are shifting rapidly, and there are some who are taking on a great burden of responsibility, and it can be personally overwhelming. It does point to, as has been said, your rituals, your practice, metabolizing that energy. It is not something that you should skip if you're doing this work. Your daily practices will keep you going. Also, as has been stated, a bit of perspective. That is, when you're in that situation, as Dave was, just try to step out of it a little bit and see what's really going on here from an objective picture. Dave, for example, might have been better if he'd just, taken a walk, or if he did not have the expectations that he sometimes has. Shamanic work, he has these expectations where it is supposed to be almost like a monastery. But we digress. Let us know what questions you have for Spirit today.
I have a question. The imagery of this Gandorf sort of, if I'm saying that correctly, this paternal image. I wonder if you could help us in some form. There's a great deal happening with men, particularly white men in crisis. And I am wondering if there's anything that you could help with in terms of guidance. We are attempting, it seems, to transition from a toxic control over in the masculine image over into something more caring. Often people say the rise of the feminine, but I would like to ask you about the masculine.
It is an extremely incisive question that you've answered. Many of the topics that you have sort of circumscribed are very much part of what is ailing people like Dave, who is very familiar with the toxic masculinity. The issue is, much as you described, a sort of shift in powers. That is, we might think of the physical powers. What can a person do? This is often the sort of manly idea of the character who goes to the West with his gun, and out of nothing he creates a vast empire. There are many stories of this sort of idea, which you will find in the culture, especially in the United States, this independent, hyper-masculine exterior forms of control and power. Even religions that are created around such controls and power are part of the gestalt of the history, especially of that particular country. And one thing is, coming from that culture, you have the advantage of understanding it. However, it is indeed very toxic. That shift that you described is indeed going on. It is that is no longer working. The exterior forces that are simply made to make empires are no longer satisfactory, because now that the empires are built, they have issues. They are crumbling. They are not sustainable. The environment that you live on does not have endless resources and supplies. So there is indeed a set of people who have taken psychological and physical power, especially in the United States. They have seized the controls based on what they have gained in the past. However, this is not working as well. A sort of secret power, a new power, which is the intuition that's utilized today is coming into the foreground. And that set of powers is available to anyone, masculine or feminine. We might call it a divine feminine energy. We might call it also a more divine masculine energy too. You might think of it as a yin yang. Within the feminine, there is a spot of masculine, and within the masculine, there's a spot of feminine, etc. Man in the moon is an excellent symbol because this is the divine masculine wrapped around the divine feminine. You think of the moon as a feminine object, but the man in the moon is that masculine potential. The masculine potential, of course, which is more healthy and more within a set of divine, I guess you might say, feminine principles. We could look at it in an opposite direction too, but just to use this and perceive this in the particular way is very helpful in our imagery. And insofar as this is true, there is a spot. Dave often says that in his work with women, he merely needs to recognize the person. He merely needs to recognize the pain that they have suffered. And in some ways, the more divine masculine is a necessary component of healing. We all have a mother and a father. If you have a terrible father, a good father figure who is not terrible is extremely healing. A good mother is also healing, but there's something very specific about a male healing the cruelties of a male. It is allowing both aspects to be in a balanced and good place. We don't want to live in a world where one aspect or the other is repressed. This has been the case in the past, where the divine feminine is a more repressed aspect. As the divine feminine moves in, there is space for a positive aspect of the male. These shifts are happening, and they are happening very rapidly because the Earth, the universe needs them to happen. It needs to be that this hyper masculinity begins to crumble, that all that is seen is not the only thing that is real. What is real is also that which is unseen. And as you have mentioned in your discussion of emotions and feelings, those are greater motivators than what might be physically real. Your feeling of success may bring you success. Your feeling of depression will make you depressed, and it will make you perhaps not do things that you might otherwise have done. Everything is actually based in a more feeling and intuitive space and was previously realized. And as these powers show up, one thing we want to encourage everyone to do is not to dwell so much on the inadequacies of the hyper male, not to dwell so much on the suffering that is caused from this set of people, but instead to look at the advantages of a new way, a new combination of factors of how things can work. See, for example, how it is helpful to you. Demonstrate for others how this new energy is also helpful to them, and to some degree leave the toxicity to its own devices. Something is being learned there. We may not like it, but it might be that people need to go through this toxicity to not be toxic. That is simply the only way. You might think of yourself as a children and remember the foolish errors, the foolish mistakes that you made. Perhaps they had terrible consequences for many years. What does that do? It reminds you, you should not put your hand on a hot stove again. Now you know. You can look at the burn mark on your hand, and now you know. This is what is going to continue for those who live in toxicity, continual movement where the hand goes on the stove again and again and again until the moment when it is realized that the physical is not all there is, that suffering does not lead to happiness, that this control is not the right form of control. That is, it is not as useful today as it might have appeared in the past. Many have suffered. We could dwell for many years on the suffering of those who have experienced the toxicity. However, now is a bit of a time to accept that this is what's going on and to move on. You all are halfway there. You are halfway through this toxicity. You are able to see the one from the other. Your questions often are, now what do we do? Where should we go? How can this be ameliorated? We will ask you to observe. Just observe as you have in the import of your question, observe, and to see what's going on. Just as we have told Dave to step a little bit out of himself and see, yes, you are metabolizing a good deal of depression and sadness today, and that is just what you are doing. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you might get a bit sad and bored of it, so move on after a few hours and try something else. That sort of stepping outside of yourself without judging is what is going to be useful for all of you and all people at this time. Noticing the one from the other and putting a good deal of energy into the more positive realms of evolution while not becoming so outraged at the negative evolution that you also see. Does this answer your question, or are there further questions?
No, that's fine. That's fine. If it's all right, I think we should bring it down.
We are glad to depart. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We always enjoy talking with you. We admire your work and the fortitude with which you come to every session and every day of your lives as you do this work. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I felt a lot of energy, but I feel very strongly the collective. But I'm out of that position. But I've just been very moved to write. So listen to yourself. I'm just going in whatever I've just written, that we walk with you. Just like the seasons change, there will be leaves that fall and new ones will come on. Understand that we walk with you. We may be whispering and speaking to you. You will have to work on your listening, knowing of our presence. One will need to understand one's feelings and doubts, and we say that one should not allow external influences to allow one to forget one's inner peace. One would need to be in space of love and healing energy in order to be giving healing to Mother Earth and others that seek guidance from the higher knowing. The ability to allow knowing and guidance through is your purpose should you wish to pursue your own inner growth and peace. Do not worry about your changing emotional state. Be aware of these changes. Master the reminders of your humanness. One would need understand that we walk beside you with love. You have the choice of feeling our presence and noticing our knowing and gentle words, in brackets, points, as gently as we possibly can put to you. Listen with your hearts to us. See with your mind the energy around us. We leave you with healing, and we shall hope that this communicates with love to you. Remember, mastering your human mind and focus to listen and see your light and the energy around you. Then only you may be able to extend more purpose to those around you and your energy into this consciousness. We walk with you. We walk with you with love.
Oh,
And so it is.
Thank you, Queran.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.